Elon Musk's political career is over. Or at least so it seems. Last Friday, he appeared in the Oval Office alongside Donald Trump in the spot where he seems to always stand when he's in the Oval Office to announce his departure. I say announce, that makes it sound much grander than it was. It was actually a kind of lackluster affair in which he really didn't want to talk about anything much. I think, unfortunately, I have to talk about it because somehow back in 20-something teen, I dug myself a grave of being a Elon Musk watcher, which has been quite the experience. So 4 years ago, you can date it most easily by the fact I'm wearing a costume, and that as was the style of the time, making factual, sort of informative in some ways YouTube videos at the time. Back in August 2020, I somehow hung a large millstone around my neck by becoming not only an Elon Musk watcher, but I guess someone who was an Elon Musk watcher to the extent of 1.8 million views. And I mean, you say in the chat that I hated Elon Musk before it was cool. Like, I think it wasn't a ridiculous thing to do at that point. I wasn't like some like cool renegade ahead of the pack figure. What's interesting is at the time, like if you weren't too sure about Elon Musk, it was because Elon Musk was like someone who was like being a bit too big on electric cars, right? Elon Musk thought that making more cars electric was going to be like the big thing that sort of solved climate change. Whether he thought that or not, it was definitely the way he was presenting it. And my take on that, the take of a lot of other people, was like, yeah, no, this is sort of good in context. This is helpful. That is going to be a part of the transition, but you know, maybe it's not going to be everything, right? Actually, probably getting people into public transport is probably going to be a far more efficient use of resources than everyone still having their own personal vehicles, but they're electric. Yes, that's better than having diesel or petrol cars. However, you still have to like build a big car and like a battery and stuff, and that's like a whole thing. Obviously, things since then have progressed quite a lot. And he's had a rise and fall and rise and fall. However, you know, the fact that we got to here feels interesting, right? Because not too long ago, Elon Musk was very much at the height of his powers. If we think back in January, he hops up on the stage at the inauguration celebration.
It is thanks to you
in DC
that the future of civilization
bangs that salute, which, you know, to some of us was very off-putting, but in many ways the fact he was doing that was because he was very much at the height of his powers, right? This was the moment where this was showing off, right? This is you can't get me anymore because I own the big social media platform that previously everyone would have bitched and moaned on about this. I'm the president's right-hand man. I'm untouchable, right? And he just put hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's campaign. Elon Musk was man of the hour. So, to fast forward, January, February, April, March. Sorry, did I just do all of the months wrong? Oh, that's so embarrassing. February, March, April, May. I feel like when people have embarrassing stream clips because they've like left the wrong window up or something, or they've like said the wrong thing. I feel like most people's are higher stakes than mine. I'm currently deeply embarrassed that I got the months wrong. It has been January, February, March, April, May. It's been 4 months, right, since that height of his powers moment. And where are we? We're standing with a black eye looking and trying to dodge any questions possible before he puts his tail between his legs and exits the White House.
Today it's about a man named Elon.
Elon Musk, the world's richest man, once again in the Oval Office. The ball cap reads DOGE. The t-shirt, the DOGE father.
Elon has worked tirelessly helping lead the most sweeping and consequential government reform program in generations.
Because when I give someone genuine effusive praise, I need to read it off a piece of paper. Nothing says this is genuine and heartfelt than oh yeah, you've been really helpful and I am really grateful for all your help. Particularly Donald Trump, like a guy who just goes into superlatives for anything. Like, this definitely feels like the sort of thing he could wing, right?
The event marks the official end of Musk's time running DOGE, the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. Says Donald Trump, DOGE has saved the U.S. hundreds of billions.
Well, and I thought I'd give it to Elon as a presentation from our country.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you.
Take care.
A golden key.
But Musk's work has been cast by countless...
Which I was looking into trying to work out whether that's a thing or not. But I don't think it is. Like, I spent a bit of time this afternoon as I was doing prep for this stream, being like, oh, it's like maybe the key to the White House is a thing, right? It's like being a freeman of the city or something. And I'm fairly sure that it's not. So it's been quite the rise and fall, right? And his moment in the Oval Office last Friday was, particularly awkward in many ways. Not too long before, the New York Times had run a piece about Elon Musk's time on the campaign trail and entering into politics, where they'd talked about reports that his drug use had become regular, routine, excessive. Use of, this is me taking this from the New York Times. Elon Musk, please do not sue me in the UK, a country where libel laws are horribly easy to sue someone. The New York Times reported that he was using ketamine and Adderall, like, a lot, to the point that he is effectively incontinent. And this alongside his super complex, like, family arrangements, whereby he has fathered, like, 12 children at this point, I think is the number we're up to. Many with different women, multiple of whom are employees. I was watching one report where someone just described his life as kind of being a lot, and I mean, I don't know how he fits it in. I mean, presumably he doesn't have to cook his dinners. Like, that probably helps quite a lot. And so it's been a real rise and fall. And so I kind of wanted to do a recap of what has happened. How did he go from that tippity top moment where he felt like he was in such a great place that he could pop a Nazi salute at the presidential inauguration, to being this sort of sad shell of a man standing in the corner of the Oval Office. Like, there was a point where people were talking about Elon Musk as though he was going to be Trump's successor. This is the London Evening Standard, so it is reporting on this from across the pond. But if you go back to just February, right? Just February, that is about a quarter of a year ago, slightly over. So not long at all. The Standard running a headline, "Can Elon Musk run for president?" The ascent of Elon Musk in politics has sparked talk of whether he could eventually run for the top position himself. I think this was sort of a point where J.D. Vance hadn't really come into his own yet. I think there is much more of a support base for J.D. Vance as Trump's successor now. I think he is. Prior to that, we were in a place where there wasn't necessarily a clear successor to Trump, and at the same time, there was a real sense that MAGA sort of was Trump and Trump was MAGA, and maybe, there was all the discussion about Trump doing a third term, part of which was about the fact that, well, is there anyone who can come after Trump, or does the whole thing just fall apart? I think now maybe J.D. Vance does have the support amongst the base that he could continue to kind of take that baton from Trump and keep going. But, back in February, that didn't quite feel as in the bag, I guess. And so Elon Musk was being talked about as a kind of potential successor, right? Trying to fix the rules so that Elon Musk could become president. Christopher's in the chat saying, "I saw Musk more as Trump/future MAGA POTUS handler." I mean, the role that he has found himself in is sort of as the US's Grima Wormtongue, which I was thinking about this the other day. What is it about politicians that when they get into power, at least some of them seem to think, the first thing I need to do is find myself a Grima Wormtongue-like figure. I think back to when in the UK we had Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings as this duo of kind of the man with the power and the man behind the throne kind of thing. I don't know exactly why it is that politicians are like, I sort of, Tony Blair and Alistair Campbell, Keir Starmer and Morgan McSweeney. Did Joe Biden have a Grima Wormtongue? And Elon Musk found himself for a time as the US's Grima Wormtongue. And it has, which to be clear, is not to suggest that now that he has left, Donald Trump will sort of de-age and sort of come to his senses. Even when it doesn't happen, there is often the pursuit of wanting to talk about someone like they are. There was a piece in this Oval Office kind of press moment where they're talking about Jill Biden and whether Jill Biden should have to answer for potential involvement in hiding Joe Biden's condition from the world. But let's see. Let's take a little look about how things have gone, because after he pumped $300 million he spent to elect Donald Trump, apparently, including, was it $1 million he was giving to people who registered to vote? Like, if you registered to vote, you could enter a sort of competition, and someone would get picked to get $1 million. But after spending that $300 million to elect Trump, the big thing that was Elon Musk's part of the campaign was DOGE. The cringe-inducingly named Department of Government Efficiency. Everyone loves a backronym. And the promise was that Musk was going to find $2 trillion worth of savings from the US government spending. As we can see, things have not gone quite that well. Him and his team have managed to find $175 billion, apparently. But as this huge amount of small print here says, that is from a combination of asset sales, contract/lease cancellations and renegotiations, fraud and improper payment deletion, grant cancellations, interest savings, programmatic changes, regulatory savings, and workforce reductions. You absolutely know that in order to get that number, they have someone just like trying to be like, oh, I guess we saved money there because we didn't take on a new contract for a thing which isn't money we've actually saved because it's money we would have spent that's gone out. It's that maybe someone would have done the thing. Like, my feeling is it's probably like carbon credits. When when companies take money for sort of carbon offsetting, and they're like, yeah, I'm not going to chop down my forest if you give me money, and they actually sort of never had any plans to chop the forest down anyway, but they're just like, yeah, I still won't chop down this forest I own if you give me some carbon offset money. I would be very surprised if there wasn't some elements of this number that are, holding that up. And yet, even so, even falling short of 10% of his initial target, he's also managed to kind of piss everyone off and also very nearly break the US government multiple times. Some of you will remember the sort of big funding freeze at the very, very beginning of Trump's presidency. But the particular one that has been controversial, maybe not amongst people who are big Trump supporters, but certainly amongst the liberal establishment, as we might say, was the freeze in money to USAID, which I don't know why. Why do Americans not refer to that as USAID? Like, if we're going to refer to d.o.g.e. as DOGE because it's a backronym, like, this is also a backronym. Someone has constructed this so that you can say USAID. And for some reason, every US news reporter describes it as USAID. Big freeze on that. Massive impacts on development work across the world. And some real attempts to find, like, impropriety, which, I mean, I'm sure there was some, like, badly spent money in there. But what was particularly interesting about that was that, US aid money is not only spent out of the goodness of the US's heart, right? That's maybe an aspect of it. Let's not completely take that away. But a lot of international development money is basically used as a big soft power thing to be like, hey, please don't hate me. Like, please, I know that we're a country that is incredibly wealthy, and sometimes companies that are based in our country employ people from your country for very little money, and all of the wealth gets sucked out of your country. And every time you want a thing to happen at the World Trade Organization or at the UN, we vote it down. However, please don't think we're bad because we're sending you some money. Managed to turn their back on that, which was good, which was good fun. Also, just like the way they went about it. I mean, Elon Musk came in with this energy of like, we're going to freeze all the money. We're going to like a kind of maximalist approach to things, which I'm broadly of the opinion that one of the reasons that liberal parties aren't doing very well at the moment is because they refuse to be in any way sort of assertive and active, and there's a real kind of like everything has to go through a million processes where right-wing parties and right-wing politicians are like, let's absolutely just go for it. Let's get into power and just suddenly freeze the funding. Let's give it a go. If the courts tell us off, maybe we'll have to go back on it. But why not try? But obviously this managed to sort of piss everyone off. Musk very much kept to his promise of treating the US government like a business, to the extent that he sent an email out to US government employees asking them what they had done over the past 5 days and getting them to do like bullet points of that and sending it to their manager, with the kind of implicit thing that if you don't reply to this, then you're fired. And also if the answer isn't good enough, you're fired, which, is a really good way to run a humongous organization. Say what you like about Trump, about Musk as well. If we look at, this thing where he kind of came in and just emailed everyone, they sort of have the courage of their convictions in that they will just go, hey, yeah, what if we just did the thing? What if we just put, what was it? 20% tariffs on anyone. And then maybe it doesn't always work, and so they have to roll back on it. But they're like, well, give it a go. Why not? Like, how bad can it be? And so I think there's an extent to which it's like chickening out, but also an extent to which it's just like, hey, why not? Like, how complex can a government be as a system? And like that is a core part of the reason that they are popular among voters, right? Because so many people know that the economy and politics is broken in so many ways, and so like having someone go like, fuck it, let's just try some stuff, is engaging and feels like a justified response to the place we're in a way that like, oh, I'm gonna a sort of Kamala Harris or Keir Starmer sort of like, oh, I'm gonna set up a commission to look into potentially producing a report on possible ways forward to do a little part of this. Let us not forget that along the way, he also managed to sort of raise eyebrows by just getting in a bunch of really young engineers to be like, they'll give it a go, fresh ideas, right? Which again is part of that energy of like, let's just do the thing. There is a sort of fascinating interview with a bunch of these young developers that Trump brought in. Silent Starly, fear not, we're getting to big balls. Where what's his name? Jesse Waters from Fox News.
Part 3. Here's the interview with Elon Musk and the rest of the DOGE crew. We finally asked the one question on our mind. Who's big balls?
It's me.
The White House.
That should be obvious.
To hear from.
Why do they call you big balls?
I just said it as my LinkedIn username.
DOGE youngster developers about the hard work they were doing.
Well, people
all of which was like building
like,
stuff
seriously,
to keep track of
and
payments and
adverse to risk.
Probably
I was like, well, I want to be
things that is useful for
so
government
I said
to have.
it, and honestly, I didn't even think anyone would notice.
But sort of the most cringe-inducing people
LinkedIn is so
you've
What
ever
balls do?
Right now, I'm working on some payment computer stuff. So one of our initiatives is to root out fraud and waste. And to do that, we started looking at the payment computers.
Like this whole thing, fascinating.
That would be the response.
Is this the most basic responses?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most common response.
What do you say when people just say, I don't know?
Well, it's a huge cause for concern because like the upstream thing, which is distributing the money, literally has no checks and no accountability to the actual American taxpayer. So it's a huge vector for fraud, waste, and abuse.
Do these people not respect taxpayer money?
I mean, there's no incentive to if you work in the government. I think the incentives will always decide the outcomes.
Yes.
Do you guys feel like you're putting yourself at risk?
I love that because it sounds clever, but means like I guess it means something, but like incredibly vague. Like, what does that mean in this sort of specific moment, right?
By doing this because you're stirring up so much hostility.
Oh yeah, sorry. Also, this interview is quite fun because it talks about how being sat in the White House at the age of like 19, but also sometimes people aren't nice to them, and that's like they sort of do a sort of like, oh, woe is me.
People ripping us off.
100%. Well, we don't need to speculate about that. You can see online in the protests that they make that very clear. I mean, I've been hanged in effigy many times, and there have been people that have actively advocated at these violent protests for my death, and have also advocated for the death of the people at DOGE.
I think the young folks of us have gotten hate mail, threats from reporters and the public alike. I think, speaking for myself, I dropped out of Harvard and came here to serve my country, and it's been unfortunate to see lost friendships. Most of campus hates me now, but I think fundamentally, I hope people realize through conversations like this that reform is genuinely needed. And if there's one, I think this is important to say, if there's one group of people who really have a shot of success, it's the people here. They're up until 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday.
Like, people are allowed to not like you based on the decisions that you've made. That's not like coming from nowhere, right? And also, the flip side of that is you're currently sat in the cabinet room in the White House. Like, let's not pretend things are going badly right now. But even with all of that, even having not managed to make anywhere near the impact that he would have liked to do, he's also managed to just kind of piss off all of his colleagues. There's some absolutely fantastic, like, behind-the-scenes stories of Elon Musk having confrontations with, like, other cabinet members and like members of staff, potentially came to blows with the Treasury Secretary. There's a great story of one of I can't remember exactly who it was, like following Elon Musk down the corridor, just shouting "fuck you" at him. In just a real, wow, this sounds like a sensible workplace. I'm glad that this is the seat of power for quite a large country. But probably the biggest thing has not only been the impact on his life in terms of becoming a reportedly enthusiastic user of drugs. We've also seen massive blowback on Musk's businesses. Very early on, there were protests and even vandalism at Tesla
dealership in Rome
shops and facilities. This is a shop in Rome, a Tesla garage in Rome, where there was a large fire,
Italian police were looking into possible
at the time at least was being looked at as potentially arson.
It's just the latest.
There were Tesla rapid charges, do they call them?
With repeated
which
demonstrations
were
against
burned.
the firm.
There was large
Boss
protests
and his appointed
outside
role in the US government.
Tesla dealerships.
This is not a red issue. This is not a blue
There
issue.
were,
this is not a Trump versus everyone else issue.
There was a bunch of kind of poster jacking that went on in London, even. It goes from 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Tesla, the swastika. Elon Musk is a bellend, signed the UK. which quite impressive to have people in other countries getting stuck in on this. And I think some of that is that a bit of kind of just America being global hegemon, and then like there being some Brits who are like, yeah, we could get in on that too. There's sort of certainly a kind of British lib thing where certain British liberals like to talk about American politics sort of more than British politics, and would probably find this more interesting than particularly if you're like a British liberal who is a little bit, who is like sort of broadly aligned with Keir Starmer, but is aware that maybe Keir Starmer's lurch to the right is not great, but also you kind of can't say too much about that because he's your guy. And so Elon Musk, let's talk about Elon Musk instead. And as time went on, we had the absolute cratering of Tesla's stock price as people stopped buying Teslas and they started losing market share, particularly in Europe, but elsewhere as well. It's recovered a little bit now. There was a massive slide, some of which was all tied up with the larger slides in the stock market following Elon Musk, following Donald Trump's imposition of tariffs, which again is one of the many moments in which there began to be a bit of friction between sort of Trump's political mission and Elon Musk's businesses. There was again some friction surrounding the big beautiful bill recently, all of which led us to some fantastic moments. I mean, we spoke about this on stream, but I particularly enjoyed
these cars? What do you think?
Well, the car that I drive
the
is
incredibly low rent
that one?
that red one in the middle.
I like that.
moment in which
It's
Donald Trump bought a Tesla,
It's faster than a Ferrari.
despite the fact
This is beautiful. Whoa!
if you
Can I get
are
in?
Get in!
a US president or have been a US president, you
you
are
got
never
the
allowed to
Let me get in
drive.
a second.
And so they did this incredibly
Tesla?
low
You want my
rent
notes?
sort
Yeah.
of
They gave me notes.
presentation
I said,
thing
I'm not biting. I don't need
where
notes.
where Donald Trump was like, everyone's being angry to Elon.
Thank you. Let me get
Um,
in a second. I'll watch Secret Service.
And so it's
go
been a
great.
bit of a struggle
I mean, if
for
you
our
actually drove it around,
friend
it really
Whoa,
wow.
beautiful.
Elon Musk, even over the last few days,
Wow.
as he's gone back to his businesses to try and repair things there. He still struggled to get away from talking about
involve a lot of components,
a
lot of parts. Do the tariffs and the trade wars
talking
affect any
about
of this?
his political stuff, right?
You know,
Here's an interview with
But the interview didn't get off to a
CBS?
smooth start.
I noticed that all of your business.
where he was keen to talk about SpaceX stuff, Starbase having just become a city, etc. And yet the reporter still wants to talk about some of the hypocrisies with his politics at the moment.
Businesses involve a lot of components, a lot of parts. Do the tariffs and the trade wars affect any of this?
You know, tariffs always affect things a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think we want to stick to, you know, the subject of the day, which is like spaceships, as opposed to, you know, presidential policy.
Oh, okay. I was told anything's good, but
No, well, no.
But the interview didn't get off to a
And I think this is going to be Elon Musk's future for a while now, right? Is that he is going back to his businesses to try and steady the ship at Tesla, to try and keep things moving forward at SpaceX as Starbase kind of continues to build out, to keep things going with Neuralink and XAI, which is the part of Twitter that is now sort of taking the Grok bot and like making it a bigger thing. XAI is doing a big stock sale soon. It's going to sell $300 million worth of shares, which would value the company at $113 billion. And so he very much is returning to his businesses, tail between his legs, not having achieved a huge amount in government, having lost some of the political momentum from that brief time when people were like, oh, maybe they'll change the rules so that Elon Musk can become president. And instead having to go back to a bunch of companies which are doing like various amounts of well. SpaceX obviously doing reasonably well, benefiting from government contracts still, which, you know, helps the fact that Elon Musk is good mates with Donald Trump. But some of the others having a little bit more of a challenge, right? I read earlier on, a little while ago, advertising revenue from X in the UK since Donald Trump took over has just absolutely flatlined. Fell by 66.3% year on year after he took over, because no one wants to advertise on it anymore, right? It's very much a sort of like King of the Ashes situation, it feels like. And whether or not we'll hear more from, and what exactly Elon Musk's next steps are, is something we will have to wait and see. Can he dig himself back out of this hole, or is this the beginning of the end of Elon? Thank you so much for watching this clip from one of my Monday night live streams. If you would like to watch more of these clips and also my main channel videos, both ad and sponsor free, then you can do so now over on Nebula. And as well as watching my normal videos over there, you can also watch a bunch of exclusive stuff from me, including my debut feature-length documentary Boomers, which follows the lives and legacies of the baby boomer generation through a road trip around the US, Europe, and the UK, and also my series How to Research Like a PhD Student, a class that I put together a couple of years now, in which I take you through the research skills that I use to make my videos. Alongside that, there is a bunch of other exclusive content which will never exist anywhere outside of Nebula, such as Bobby Broccoli's new documentary, 17 Pages, which I've not watched yet, but I'm super excited about. I spoke to him about it a little while ago, and I'm super excited about it. It seems absolutely fascinating, and it has a really fun formal twist that you will have to go over and watch it on Nebula to find out about. But if you would like to get access to all of that great exclusive stuff over on Nebula, then you can do so using my link go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. That gets you 40% off an annual plan, meaning that your monthly subscription will be just $3 a month, which is ludicrously cheap for the fantastic stuff that is on there. Using that link also really helps to support my work as well. So I would love it if you would use that link to sign up to Nebula at go.nebula.tv/Tom Nicholas. I will see you over on Nebula.